Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Forestry podcast. I'm your host, Seth Stevenson, the communications coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association. And today we're going to be talking about our Tree Farmer of the Year. That was back last year, technically, but we just did a tour on their property here not too long ago as of this recording. So we got a chance to sit down with them today to talk about their property and what they're doing. But before I introduce our guest today, let me give a special shout out and thank you to Shelby Taylor Trucking. We're going to hear a little bit more from them later on in this episode. But for now, let me introduce the Matson family here. Leanne and Russ Matson, they are our Tree Farmers of the Year. Their property, Matson Properties, out in Wrightsville, which is just outside of Little Rock. I think it's technically a Little Rock address even. But Russ, Leanne, thank you guys for joining us today. I know we've been taking a lot of your time with the Tree Farm tour and stuff, so thank you for giving me a little bit more to sit down and talk.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here, and we enjoyed the tour. We appreciate your preparation and all the work you made us do on our part. So.
Well, and we got to make sure to give credit where credit is due. Anna Sparks, our Tree Farm director, she was that's her baby. She worked with you guys pretty closely. I just made a couple little pamphlets to hand out and took some photos. But I think she really enjoyed it. I think we had a lot of guests out there. We'll actually talk about the Tree Farm tour later in the discussion, but it was a good day. It was a nice day to be outside, Well, guys, if y'all don't mind, let's start, since you are new. I usually start with the personal history of my guests. I think that's probably a good place to start, just to kind of set the stage of who you guys are. So if you don't mind, can you just give me your personal histories? What did you do for work? What do you do now? Stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I am almost a native Arkansan. Moved here when my father got out of World War II, and I was about 5 months old. And Leanne's from away, but she can tell you about that. But anyway, my family was here, had relatives here that actually started the tree farm. But so I grew up in Little Rock school system, and went away to Washington University in St. Louis and became a civil engineer. Also went to the University of Illinois for graduate school. But Leanne and I met in St. Louis at school. And from school, I was invited to join the Army, and I did. I was turned out well. I was assigned to a research lab in New Hampshire, and that was a long way from Vietnam. I was real glad to be there. But so I did cold regions research in Hanover, New Hampshire for a couple of years. From there, I went to work for Bechtel on a design team for nuclear power plants, and worked there a couple of years, became a licensed engineer in California. And then my father, who was here and running our construction company, became ill, and I decided if I was going to take over the construction company, we probably needed to come back to Arkansas. So we came back. My father promptly got better and lived another 30 years, but I don't regret coming back. It's been nice, but we were contractors, a construction company. We just closed it last year after 107 years. And the tree farm's about that same age. My great uncle, my father's uncle, had started buying property south of Little Rock. As I said, he was a building contractor, and he was of the opinion that it was just too rocky out west to build. Little Rock would have to expand to the south, and he obviously missed his bet on that, but eventually it came around. So, 100 years later, things are finally developing to the south. But in the meantime, we've been maintaining it as a tree farm, and we've been, actively growing trees for about 40 years now. We've got, finally have things that we planted and we cut and we replanted, and they're ready to be thinned. So that's kind of our experience getting into tree farming. But tell them where you're from.
Oh, I don't mind telling. I am from away. I'm from New Jersey, went to Washington University, and that's where I met Russ. And I think traveling as we did and seeing all sorts of landscapes besides the cityness of New Jersey made me ready for Arkansas. And I think transplants are sometimes the best people. I mean, I probably know more about Arkansas history than most Arkansans. I do have trouble with the names of the counties. I had to learn them listening to tornado reports. So I am a proud resident of Arkansas now. I think we have all the potential in the world. We don't have an ocean. That's too bad, but we wait long enough. We may get one back. So I'm thrilled to be here. The emphasis with the tree farm was if I wanted to see Russell out on the weekends, I'd better go to the tree farm. But I think now I am very knowledgeable, more so, and I've enjoyed I hope we'll talk more about the relationships that we've made.
And I've kind of seen you guys since a decent amount since I've been here since 2018. And I mean, Leanne, specifically I've seen you a lot getting involved with some of our programs, specifically the Women Owning Woodlands program. And I see y'all at our events, our annual meetings, stuff like that. So, I mean, you guys are heavily involved in for the tree farm program and Arkansas Forestry Association. And like I said, we're going to get a little bit more into that here later. But let's talk about the property itself. You said, Russ, that it's been around for about 100 years or so, and your family has been kind of managing that property for all that time. Can you just give us a little bit more history? Just kind of dive a little bit deeper into the history of the property.
Well, managing all that time is a little strong for what we were actually doing. As I said, my great uncle was a building contractor, so he was buying almost abandoned property back in the 1920s, and we were paying $1 an acre, or sometimes as much as $3 an acre, or just paying taxes on property that had been abandoned. It really was pretty poor farming country if you were trying to grow cotton or any kind of row crop. It just was not suitable for that. So really he just bought pieces and eventually they began to look a little bit like an actual group of properties instead of just scattered here and there. But I would say half of our tree farm was initially bought as 20 and 40 acre family farms that had been given up. And so that was where we started, and we just, my great uncle and my dad kept waiting for Little Rock development to go that way, and it didn't happen. At one point, I think about 1950, they optioned the property to the U.S. government when they were considering putting the air base south of Little Rock. So that was a big deal. They had an option for $25 an acre, and that didn't come to pass. And they thought, well, they'd missed the bet again, but kept kind of gradually buying property as it became available next to us. And then there was an effort to develop an industrial district, the 65th Street Industrial District in Little Rock, where a construction company had done a lot of work. We built probably 30, 40 buildings in there, and it had filled up, and the people that had started that were looking for a new place and decided the 145th Street area looked promising. So they started buying property, and they swapped property with my dad so that they could get a block of property. And so that began to put some of our property into one area rather than scattered around. So that was a big step. The industrial district started, and I think we built the first building, the Guardsman Chemical Building, and then things kind of went south, and the industrial district collapsed, and the restrictive covenants they had disappeared, and so it was basically bought it as a tax sale, and they've started putting in mobile homes and broke the restrictive covenant that it was just going to be industrial and no residential around. So that's when we began looking for something else, and that's about when somebody approached us. I've forgotten who it was, but about logging 160 acres that we had, or 120, and my dad agreed to it, and then it was all cleared off, and we said, now what? And we said, talked about it a bit, and finally said, why don't we plant trees on it and keep it as trees? So that was our first pine plantation. As I said, we've harvested it and replanted it, and time to thin it again. But so that got us into tree farming, and then we just kind of kept going from there. We had little pieces here and there that we would cut or decide to replant, or somebody talked us into it. I don't know, but we've only really considered ourselves tree farmers for about 40 years of the 100 years we've owned the property.
Okay. And so I guess, so it sounds like the original plan was to get the property with the hopes of selling it to the city as things move south. Ideally, obviously that didn't happen. And so I guess, looking back on that now, how have things been for you guys in those 40 years? Leanne, I can't imagine coming from New Jersey, you ever imagined yourself being a tree farmer of all things, but how have those 40 years been for you guys?
Let's say that New Jersey is called the Garden State.
Yes.
We have lots of trees, but I didn't necessarily look at them.
And you've got the Great Dismal Swamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. And George Washington slept in every town. He really did. I've learned a lot, and I've learned that the vast majority of people are the most wonderful, giving, caring, want to share their knowledge people. And that's been my emphasis, has been the person who reached out to the support systems that we have. And I think I've never seen a meeting that I didn't like, and Russell has come along, and that's developed so many wonderful relationships. So I think the relationships, and the other thing that people don't realize until they got out to the tree farm was it was the storage place for a construction company all those years. So every item that they had too many of, etc.
Or we might need again.
Was dragged out there and stored. And that has been a challenge for me, wanting it to be a place that I could enjoy. And we've worked really hard, especially the last 5 years. I think it's satisfying to go out and enjoy it.
Well, and that kind of brings me to my next question. Something I like to do with this specific podcast when we talk to our Tree Farmers of the Year is talk about the goals of the property. What exactly are you guys managing it for?
Well, at the moment, we're probably managing it most for our enjoyment. The last 4 or 5 years, it's been really hard to get silviculture practices done. I can get people to come plant, but I can't get people to come harvest. I've had contracts out there 4 and 5 years, and we'll get to you, but they haven't. So I've got a contract out now to do a clear cut on 160 acres, and they're going to come back as soon as it stops raining. That's kind of the reality of our tree farm. It's a difficult site if it's wet, and when it's dry, everybody else is dry, and there are people ahead of us. So that's kind of frustrating, but I just enjoy being out there, and particularly when I was still working. I mean, the weekends at the tree farm were a place to relax, and I could measure trees or go around, clear trails, whatever. I mean, it was a diversion for me rather than a serious income project. Uh, I guess overall we've made money on the tree farm, but it would not have sustained the family the way we've managed it. So.
Well, and it is, it's Matson Properties. It's not just the two of us. So we have his brother and sister and their families to consider. And if you're looking forward, they're going to have a say in it. Our children, and I think that's not just Russell and my enjoyment, it's watching our son and daughter and our daughter's family, my daughter's family especially, grow up there from little kids riding in the front of four-wheelers. And now our grandson has taken such an interest in forestry that he's going to Colorado State in forestry and wanting to make it a career. I think that's going to be a wonderful legacy. Whether he can come back and manage this farm, we don't know. We don't know. But as long as we can keep it and don't have to sell any of the property for income, other than hoping that the trees would support the taxes, having it for recreation and, well, we'll get to the tree farm, but most recently realizing that we can share it with other people. It's now to a situation we've worked on the trails and so forth that people can come and enjoy it.
Well, and that's something important you bring up is the family aspect of it. It's not just you two, but specifically Layla, your granddaughter, and Ian, your grandson, both seem to have taken a shine to the tree farm, with Ian going to school. Layla was there at the tree farm tour, very helpful and very, very interested in what was going on. So, I mean, what's it like for you guys to see that interest in your grandchildren, and I'm sure your kids as well? What's it like to see that interest in the property?
I think it's really nice, and of course, what they get out of the property, changes as they get older. I mean, when they were really little, or picking wildflowers or seeing an animal, that was it. And now you can kind of talk to them and say, when you're looking at these trees, what do you see? What needs to happen? What are they doing? What else is going on here? And you can kind of see them pondering that and thinking, what should I be doing here, if anything? So that's been interesting to see that develop from just running around catching lizards and bugs to actually thinking about what's going on at the tree farm. So.
Well, guys, I think if you're okay, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to hear a little bit more from our sponsors this month, Shelby Taylor Trucking.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years in the industry, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
Thank you to Shelby Taylor Trucking for their support of the show. So, guys, one thing I want to talk about too that I probably should have asked at the beginning of or before the ad. That is something that's unique about y'all's property is how close to an urban area it is. And that in and of itself kind of brings special challenges, I guess we will say, to managing a property. Can y'all just talk about, I guess, what are some of the things that you guys are having to look at? I know burning is something that you can't really do with the proximity to the airport, for example. So what are some of the things or some of the issues and challenges that you guys have to face being in a more urban area?
Well, one of the issues is trespass, and we've got neighbors that have hunted. Their grandfather hunted there, and they think they ought to be able to hunt there. And it's kind of okay with that for a long time, but then we began to get worried that we'd like to know when they were out there and we were riding around, and so we have pretty much leased the property to hunting clubs, or at least know where they are, know who's going to be there, and we've got 500 acres or so that is kind of Leanne and my place to play around, where we'd rather not have people shooting. So we let some of our farmer workers hunt on that, and so we know where they are, where their stands are, and if they're going to be out there, and have phone numbers and so forth. So that's been a bit of an issue, but also we've had dumping issues. We've had to pay more attention to blocking roads that used to be there and trying to maintain gates.
Right. Let's put it help your audience put it in perspective. It's 1,800 acres bordered by the airport, by an interstate 530, 3 or 4 trailer parks, Wrightsville. While you're in the middle of the woods and you're listening to the birds, you're watching for wildlife, and then you hear the ice cream truck playing chicken in the straw in Wrightsville. I mean, we're that close. And I think that the burning issue is one thing that's any forester looking at our land would think it should have been burned to get rid of the undergrowth many times, but it's hard. It can be done, but it's never the right day that you're not going to have a smoke screen on the interstate.
And that's, I guess we should clarify for our guests or our listeners why that is an issue. I mean, smoke on the interstate, ask anyone in Northeast Arkansas and they'll tell you, hey, that's not a super great idea. And then also smoke near the airport is obviously similar kind of thing, not a great idea. Even though steps are taken to make sure burns like that are done safely and securely, there's still always variables. And if it gets over into the interstate or near the airport, that's a pretty big variable.
And I think that makes a difference in our management of the tree farm than other, I've been to every tree farm tour for the last probably 40 years. And many of them are so isolated, or they're not near major roads. They're not near people. So we have had to make relationships with all of our neighbors. And I think that's been a wonderful thing for me. I have enjoyed it. But particularly now, the city of Wrightsville, we're getting more involved. I think I'm going to join the Wrightsville Lions Club because they need an extra member. We've judged the Wrightsville Day Parade. Great fun. But it is a gift that we are 25 minutes from our home in Little Rock, that we can be out on this property, watching this property, and making decisions about it. Don't you think, Russell?
Oh, definitely. The proximity to our house is a big issue for us because we do spend a lot of time there, or we'll just, I'll be at the office. I could get to the tree farm in 10 minutes and say, maybe I'll just go out and check something, or get away. So that was nice. That was
well, and we're reaching out more and more, I think, to other people coming to use the tree farm as a teaching tool, especially. Russell mentioned Wrightsville. I think in the future, we'll talk about that. We could make it conservation areas. One of the we're very close to Lawrence Creek, that's been developed by the Nature Conservancy. There, it is a open piece of property that has lots of potential for other people to learn from. And I think now that Russell's retired, we are looking at expanding that aspect of what we do. We did have one of the major bicycle races ride through the tree farm because they needed a road surface, off road. And that was great fun to watch them scoot through.
So that kind of brings us, let's talk about the tree farm tour that we had not too long ago. As of this recording, you guys had about, what was it, like 50, 60 people out there on the property, taking little hay rides, going to different stops. I mean, what was it like to have so many people out there interested in what you guys are doing on the property?
I thought it was great, and most of the people were tree farmers or foresters, so I mean they knew what they were looking at, and you could get some advice from them. And one of the things we tried to emphasize a little bit is that we were not a real tidy tree farm with rows of trees evenly spaced, and we're more of a mess. But that also, as the people talking about wildlife and other species and so forth we're talking about, that's what deer and turkey and so forth like. I mean, they need an understory they can survive in, not just clear pine straw as far as you can see. So it made me feel a little better that there's some justification for the way we're managing or not managing some of the area. But that was interesting to see, and to get people that we knew to have known through the Forestry Association for a number of years, to finally get them out to our property and be able to tell them what we're trying to do.
Right. We were pleased that Kyle Cunningham, the state forester, came out, spoke, stayed the whole day. It was a wonderful experience in that regard. And to have those foresters look at the cypress plantation that Russell planted by himself and to be in awe of it, I mean, that was a lovely moment for us. And then Russell has trapped the beaver that are destroying parts of the property. That's a whole other aspect we haven't talked about, is that continual struggle with particularly the beaver. And Russell brought the beaver skin. He has skinned and tanned the hide and made a hat out of. I have cooked the beaver meat. How else would you have those experiences than this? But our trapper was at the tree farm tour. And then the other tree farmers were there, the Pirtles, the Robins, Pam Jolly, Tree Farmers of the Year, and they knew what they were looking at. It was a wonderful experience.
I'd like to mention a little bit about the beavers. We've been, I don't know whether battling is not the right word, maybe trying to manage them for a long time. I mean, I'm not trying to wipe them out, but I would like to keep them where they are and not expand. And that takes trapping every other year the way we're doing it now. But they're fun to watch, and as long as they don't try and build a dam a foot higher, we're okay with them. But trying to manage the wildlife.
Tell them about the wood duck boxes, Russell.
Oh, yeah, I've been doing wood duck boxes now for probably 20 years or so. And we have a lot of wood ducks on the property. That's nice to see. I've had game cameras looking for beaver and have 30 wood ducks show up in the game camera picture. So that's nice to see something like that works. And then every once in a while, the beavers will get ambitious and cut down the pole that the wood duck box is on, and you get to build another one. So. But that wildlife aspect of it,
and the wild hogs, we knocking on wood. We don't have them at the moment, but we have. and they destroy. They pull up newly planted trees, rooting through the. That was something to see. And we haven't talked about our association with professional foresters. We do have a professional forester, and we have have benefited from the professional foresters advising us. But one thrill was in watching a helicopter actually land on a truck to refuel the herbicide, and fly over one newly planted area. That was pretty exciting.
Well, for those that weren't able to get out there, or just, for whatever reason, do you guys have any, I guess tips is the right word, any tips or any words of wisdom to give to someone who is trying to do their own tree farm? I mean, what you guys are Tree Farm of the Year, you're Tree Farm of the Year for a reason. So do you guys have any words of wisdom or any tips that you could give to someone who's maybe listening to this and is working on a farm of their own?
Get help.
Right, get help.
Get advice, not help, advice.
And there is a lot of help out there. I mean, from the Arkansas Forestry Association, the state, from the federal government. There are lots of programs and lots of people available to help, and usually doesn't cost much, at least to get a little advice. When you put the practices in place, it may cost something, but you need to. I would encourage people to have a plan from somebody. I mean, where are you going with this? Do you just want to come out once a year and look at it, or you leave it alone and let it grow for 30 years and hope you can get some money out of it later? And that's been the real advantage for us, that our property is close enough to where we live that we can spend time on the ground. It's almost as good as living at the tree farm, but that's important for us to be able to get out there and enjoy it.
Well, and the advice comes not just from people on the ground, but Seth, I have to give you credit. Seth puts out a newsletter every Monday morning, and I truly read it because, Seth, you're collecting information from all over the world, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
On the economics of this business. And we haven't even mentioned learning about the diseases that attack the trees. And I appreciate that information, and I share that information. So I think I see the educational part of the Arkansas Forestry Association, that you're not just teaching us, but hopefully we're sharing the information.
And that's something too that you guys, I think, mentioned when we did the Tree Farmer of the Year video, which is back late last year, middle of last year. Something that you guys said, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I can't remember verbatim, but you guys are actively seeking new ways to learn about forestry. You're going to events, you're going to meetings, and there's always something to learn. You just have to be willing to learn it, essentially, is kind of what you guys said. Sorry, I may be putting words in your mouth, but that's essentially the idea, is keeping yourself educated about the goings-on of this business.
Yeah, there, like you say, there are new things that come up. I mean, we're not particularly concerned with the emerald ash borer, but we do have a few ash trees, and we kind of watch them once in a while to see if they're infected yet. And the new things that came up last year with the yellowing pine trees, and what's going on with that, or the Ips beetles, and we had a spot that kind of turned yellow, and we knew about beetles and borers, and get out there and peel some bark off and say, if we got a serpentine path from a Ips beetle here, if so, we're in trouble and we need to get on it right now. So that kind of knowledge, I think, is
Oh,
is nice, but it's constantly evolving. I mean,
learning
things come
about
up.
the woodpecker on our trip down to El Dorado, and what kind of help me, where they live, what kinds
their
of trees,
habitats,
habitat. Thank you,
yeah.
Russell. Habitat they would like, and I mean, it goes on and on. It rolls on and on. The knowledge, and as I said, I think now we're to the point of having the interest in sharing it, and I think the Arkansas Forestry Association the tree farm tour gave us that chance.
So, guys, we're nearing the end of our conversation here. And with a episode like this, one thing I for sure want to highlight or discuss is the future. You guys have been managing this property for trees for about 40 years. You've had a hand in it that long. What do you hope will happen with this property? What do you hope to see happen with this property in the next 5, 10, 20 some odd years?
Well, one thing that we're really beginning to look at is a conservation easement along Fish Creek. We own about 2 miles of Fish Creek, and if Wrightsville and the 145th Street area are actually expanding, it might be nice to have something protecting that creek watershed, and it would tie into the Lawrence nature area, and protect a good bit of the creek, and keep an urban area urban wildlife area. We have a lot of wildlife there, and most developers are not too interested in the wildlife or have a way to protect it. But it's low-lying land for us. I mean, everything we've got is low-lying. We've got maybe 20 feet of elevation difference on the whole property, but that's one of the things we're looking at, that it would kind of perpetuate some of our interests and have a wildlife easement.
Well, and we know that the property will be attractive for other kinds of development, solar, even a wind farm, and certainly industrial use. There are new plants going up on 145th Street. And originally we bought one piece of property knowing that it could be a siding for the railroad. So as the port of Little Rock is not that far away. So I think that's decisions that our children and their cousins are going to have to make. But I think we have tried to inform our family with your help, Seth, with Anna's help. I mean, we have tried to show our family not just the beauty and the fun of the farm, but its potential. And I appreciate, for instance, meeting all the government officials that we have. It's a way of having a voice and saying what we'd like to have happen to it.
Okay. Well, guys, is there anything else that y'all want to say or you want to add before we wrap this up?
Mostly, thank you to all the friends who might be listening to this, who I've appreciated getting to know, and I treasure their friendship and their knowledge.
Yeah, I think the tree farmers we have met over the years have become friends, and that's an important part of it for us.
Okay. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for, again, giving me a little bit more of your time today to sit down and talk a little bit about the property, give you a opportunity to go a little bit more in detail than we were able to in the video that I cut down to about a minute and a half. So thank you guys for giving me some of your time today. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. We want to thank you guys for joining us as well. We want to give a special shout out and thank you to some guy named Rob McCormick for the use of our theme song, The Same Love. That's off of his album, The Folkster. You can find more of his music on Spotify, and we have a link to his website to learn more about his music and shows and anything else some guy named Rob. You can find that link in the description of this episode. I want to say thank you once again to Shelby Taylor Trucking for sponsoring this month's episode. And make sure you come back next month when we'll have a new topic, a new discussion, and a new Voice of Forestry.